And we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this last live stream of season 2 of the Moment podcast. I'm here today with Lynn, and we're gonna talk about the Crone and Sage archetype. So where to start? Well, I guess maybe start with like the Jungian lens that we're gonna talk about partly, and then there's also like the mythology and different lenses we're gonna bring to it. But the Jungian lens being one important one, so that would be Carl Jung, and a specific part that would be I feel relevant regarding the Crone and Sage archetype would be the self. So the center of the psyche and personality, according to Carl Jung. So that would be for me like a first important factor in it. You know, the Crone and Sage being this representation, or like one representation of the self.
Yeah. The self is like also the entirety. It's not just the center, it's the center and everything together as well. It's interesting like that. And indeed, in dreams, especially, like the self can be very well represented by a wise old man or a wise old woman.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be. But then again, it can also represent itself in various forms too. Like I'm just thinking now like man and his symbols, where Jung talks about it like being a lion couple, or like some animal, or is represented by like a young child, or like a figure that's like both young and old at the same time, and things like that too. So it has like different symbols and manifestations, and like not even people. It can also be like a mandala or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and we already did a talk about the cosmic man, so there's more about it there. That's one
Yeah.
of the symbols as well.
Yeah.
We go quite in depth in there about it too. But yeah, specifically about the wise old man, wise old woman, I guess
Yeah.
makes me think of like that it is like by experience gained wisdom
Mm-hmm.
that one is able to then channel for the benefit of the collective. Does that make sense?
I would think so, yes. That makes sense. It kind of makes me think of like the stereotypical wizard that is like the guide of the king, who is like guiding the king towards like the betterment of the whole.
Mm, yeah. Yes, like an advisor.
Yeah. And in a
Indeed.
way, yeah. And in a way, it makes me think of like Horus and the Pharaoh too, like that. What like Anastasios talked about. It's kind of the similar kind of idea, the self being like the wise counselor, and often like depicted in like a wise old woman or wise old man kind of form.
Mm. Yeah, and in a way, like the self is outside of time, so maybe it's even like the collective wisdom that is being channeled by the wizard.
Yeah, I do feel like that. Like it taps into not just really like I guess the personal insights, but like in the collective unconscious, the collective wisdom, the ancestral wisdom too. I feel, and but also feel like because of the self, it also connects to the wisdom of I would say nature itself, because that's as much part of it.
Yeah. It is like a grounded kind of wisdom, a practical kind of wisdom, but still like connected also to the eternal at the same time.
Yeah. And I feel you can see that very well with on the background. You can see two very constructed depictions of the vulva women, who are like kind of like seeresses, like doing like oracle divination work, and also using like herbs and different plants for healing. And they had an entire repertoire in doing like the, probably gonna butcher it again, correct me, but like if I'm mispronouncing it again, but cider magic that they did as well.
Say that?
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah. It is very much linked also to like the old textile crafts that they would do.
Yeah.
Because it's very repetitive, so it kind of can bring one into a trance state in itself. Just doing the old like spinning or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like part of the Seder tradition of like Norse magic, I guess you would call it, or something like that.
Yeah, I just put the picture up that I had from like the whole like Patreon episode that I did with the spinning.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just interesting too. Like later that this thing for spinning and for kind of like this this kind of Norse magic, and like that kind of was connected to this kind of trance state in a way that it then got like associated with the broom, and like later, like because it's the source of that, of like the later broom and the witch and that kind of weird symbolism that they made it into. But if you trace it back, what you see is that it's connected to spinning, it's connected to the weaving.
Yes. Yes, it wasn't like or like I guess at some point there came like the time where they were shadow projecting on women who would know things about nature and how to do things.
Yeah.
And that was like then the witch hunts. And that's why maybe there's like a negative connotation to the word crone, but originally there was not, and it was like a revered role to be like the wise old woman of a tribe or something. So I think that would, make sense to have wise old women and wise old men too, like
Yeah.
to pass on the traditions of or techniques in crafts too, like to others. All kinds of different skills to be passing them on, and so that the good things that we've learned about how to do that
Yeah.
they can, yeah, that they don't have to be figured out all over again.
Yeah, I guess it's like it's very much connected to, again, like in that sense, to what you were saying regarding this collective wisdom, and I guess it's ancestral wisdom in some sense as well, that gets like passed on from generation to generation.
Yeah, and it's I feel like it has a lot of depth to it, like to be doing things together and learning in that way, that it has its own kind of like resonance, because that's how it used to be done a lot. So that's why it feels nice to be gathering and doing things together and learning from the wise ones.
Yeah, but then also one thing that I do want to also bring up is that the even though in some sense generally it's like associated with old people, but I do feel that, because the self is outside of time, we all kind of have that inside of us to some degree, like that we can tap into.
I believe that we can connect to it. And there's like this saying, like someone is an old soul, and
Yeah.
that kind of reflects about that, like, because if you're very much connected to the outside of time realms, then you can maybe channel wisdom from there that you didn't even learn from someone else.
Yeah, I do feel like there's an inner wisdom there that goes just beyond, I guess, knowledge or like the collecting of information. Really, that's like much more, I guess, ancient in that sense. And yeah, and I think regarding that, I feel like with the Crone and the Sage, it's not just because, especially with the Sage, there's often like this like idea of the Sage. I don't know. People think of books and stuff like that. It's like it's not just that. It's like there's more to it. It's like I guess some people would call it magic or something. Yeah, like that they would connect it to it as well, and like maybe witchcraft and other like esoteric practices. But then really I feel it also just goes into this distinction between knowledge and wisdom being kind of, I don't know, linked to intuition and linked to like the inner like a sense of inner wisdom that's more than just the collection of like knowledge or information on and just hoarding something like that, but it's more like knowing how to apply these things in a practical way.
Yeah. So I guess it's where they both meet, intuition and knowledge together make wisdom, or what would you think?
Basically, yes. I would say something like that.
They can work together in a nice, balanced way.
Yeah.
Where both have their place.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like regarding the wise old man and woman, even though they're called wise old man and woman, I do feel like there's like feminine and masculine qualities with both of them.
Yeah.
Like they have it like integrated within themselves. Same with like the shadow and the light too, because they are symbols of the self. So they have all these different, seemingly opposing qualities within themselves.
Oh, that's a good point. Indeed, they are symbolizing the self in a way. So yeah, then it would make sense like that. There are like this union of opposites present in them as figures.
Yeah, it makes me think about like McGonagall, like how she's both an old woman but also a cat, symbolically, like animal and again like that, like self symbolism.
Yeah, she's like one example from like popular culture, I guess, where like a wise old woman type, or let's say Galadriel. She's very old.
Yeah, I forgot to actually get a picture from of Galadriel, but like people can find it online. But yeah, Galadriel being very old too. I don't know how old she was again. Like, was it like 2,000 or 8,000 years or something? I don't know.
Somewhere it said 8,000. I'm not sure. I didn't fact check it.
That's very old. she definitely deserves the term old.
Why is old woman?
Yeah. But yeah, but I kind of feel with these characters too. Like think in that sense, like Galadriel too, like and the elves, the connection with nature, but also very spiritual. But also, I feel like McGonagall is also very much an interesting character too.
Mm. She's got like she's got authority for sure, but she also is very like caring as well.
Yeah.
So she's got those both sides as well, and yeah, later becomes also the headmistress of Hogwarts.
Yeah. Yeah, and another one from popular culture would really be Gandalf. Was also very popular, like more like wise old man figure too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can see it with the clash with the Balrog, with the shadow, but then also like Gandalf the White, where he overcame that. But he also very caring figure, but also very like has that authoritative side too. Like think like at Minas Tirith, where he goes like prepare for battle.
Yeah.
And before that knocks that one dude out. But
Sometimes there's a need for harsh methods, I guess, when
mm,
you're at war.
but yeah, but I think another important thing regarding like a figure like Gandalf, but also maybe like a wise old man and woman in general, is kind of like that symbol of the self. It's not just that, but I kind of, I don't know, like especially with Gandalf, I feel like he represents in that sense like not just a guide, but also like hope in some sense as well.
Mm. Yeah, he brings that light of hope when he comes over the bridge to Helm's Deep
Yeah.
and the sun rises.
Yeah, but otherwise too, like Gandalf does that too at like Minas Tirith and
Oh yeah,
in other
it's
moments too.
like a lighthouse almost.
Yeah, but and it kind of
The first-
makes and it kind of makes me also then think about like the hermit card too, like the old man carrying the lantern.
he had to go battle the Balrog into the depths of the mountain, and then he came back to bring the light to help the collective against the forces of darkness, I guess. Or
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like I think that's another part of the Crone and the Sage too, like this guiding, mentoring side, and like this side that brings this sense of, I guess, hope. Maybe it's like a hope because I mean they've seen a lot, and it's kind of like the wisdom from the collective that sees like a bigger picture than like in the moment, because it is outside of time.
yes.
So things in more broader terms than one normally would, like, you know, broader than the day-to-day or other such things.
I now remember, like you one time told me about that this archetype of the magician is suppressed, or like it's pushed into the shadow in the current culture. It's like people are not
Yeah.
very well connected to it, which is like kind of sad because we really need that kind of like mentorship and like people who can see the bigger picture.
Yeah, very much so, and with it, I would say like it's the same true with the crone. It's kind of the crone and the wise old man in some sense, but also like the magician or like yeah,
Mm.
the that kind of like archetypal energy too, and it's mostly just if you think about that, it's like same with like it's like Merlin, for instance, but also like the you know that became the witch. And I don't know. I really don't like the term witch because it's of its negative connotations. I don't know like what another term would be that doesn't carry that as much. But you know that aside, but with both Merlin, you can see, and then you know that's what is later you know labeled as a witch, which ties you know back to a figure like Holda and the wise old woman. Very much also, I don't know, like yeah, it's both kind of like you know they got suppressed, but they both also very much connect to the unconscious, and it's more like it has a spontaneous side to it as well, and it's very connected to I don't know like a different kind of wisdom that's more like about guiding the individual to a sense of wholeness, guiding the individual to a sense of authenticity, to become you know to stand in their own authority in some sense, and with that I feel there's like some Capricorn energy with it as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. And also like kind of bringing to presence to the
Yeah,
moment that that Gandalf had, like for instance with the king that was under like the spell of Saruman. It's like a
yeah,
shadow magician. Um, but then he was able to bring him back to present moment.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. But I kind of feel like looking at that, the main reason kind of why that kind of like energy got like repressed in the first place is because it clashed with dogma. It clashed with like people who wanted like authority and power over kind of feeling, where kind of that I guess the wise old man and wise old woman Capricorn vibe is very much different. It's very much more like a shared sense of power and a power together kind of energy.
Yes, because like the healthy Capricorn also is balanced out by its opposite sign Cancer, which is like emotional nurturing. So it's like yeah, where one has that for oneself but also for the broader community at the same time as one has figured out or like is aware of some wisdom, and then like the natural thing is to bring that to everyone, I guess, as the
Yeah,
hermit card also, like when it finds the light it brings it to the people, doesn't stay hermit forever. It's like more like a back and forth, like going to figure things out and then coming back with something and going to figure things out and then again.
yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
very much so. And I don't know, it this whole like mentoring kind of idea reminds me in some sense also about Odin's Wild Hunt to some degree, not in the weird, I don't know, like distorted like doom kind of manner that it's been depicted later, but more in the original sense, because there used to be like an old like a wise old man figuring figuring no a wise old man leading this group of younger men through this like rite of passage kind of ritual. And similarly you had with like the Archetype comes to mind, but also other rituals, think like connected to Hecate, for instance, that also capture the same sense, with Persephone, for instance, and Demeter as well. The same sense of guidance, the same sense of guiding individuals through the sense of rite of passage and these rituals that they have been through many times already, or or a singular time regarding some rituals. It depends on the type of ritual, but it's also something that's I feel kind of missing too, but at the same time like connects very much to the wise old woman and the wise old man too, even though the individuals who do this mentoring might physically be not old in that sense, but like they still connect to that energy, they still connect to that sense of guidance and mentorship and keeping in mind like the broader picture of things as well.
And I guess like there are some things like that are kind of that have that kind of structure still, like with the a bit older kids mentoring the younger ones.
Yeah.
And different like I guess hobbies or sports still have like similar types of like some people are coaching the others or like
Yeah.
different like summer camps or things like that where you go and train or learn something together that have like a similar type of effect of like people might form bonds of friendship and through those experiences. But I feel like it would be beneficial to have it a bit more broadly applied or like for people to organize these types of
I don't know, events or
yeah, I guess events would be a word for it.
yeah, but I kind of feel like it's not just about, I guess, like creating that space for the younger people to bond, but it's also at the same time like a space where there's a transmission of wisdom too, not just knowledge but wisdom. And I feel like in a more ancient sense, a lot of these rituals were were about connecting with the self, connecting with that kind of energy yourself, because in the end, in a lot of these rituals, the initiate, the participant at some point would become also, if they wanted to, they could all become the guide and the mentor themselves if they wanted to. I feel like that sense of like passing on the torch is kind of also very important in that too.
And there's many kind of sides or levels to connecting with the self too, in a way. Like you could think of instinct and intellect and emotions and spirituality like all these levels are part of the self.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Plus also like I guess shadow as well. What we're unaware of can be good or detrimental things. Depends what you
Yeah.
push away. Usually a bit of both.
Yeah, and it depends on like how it gets expressed, you know, what's in there as well.
Mm.
Yeah. But I kind of feel also that I don't know with that like yeah, it's all these different it's all these different aspects, all these different sides of ourselves that is like connecting us to yeah these different sides of the self. And the wise old man and woman at some point, you know, later in like individuation, which is, you know, about becoming your authentic true self. It's kind of like yeah this internal guiding figure too. And you know there's like this external sense of like people that embody this, but it's also important to like, you know, connect to that inner wise old man and woman as well, to that inner sense of like authority, that inner sense of yeah wisdom,
Mm.
and to you know like well it's inside of me too. Like sure I can we can all learn from other people and the wisdom that they have to share, but at the same time, you know, there's that inner sense of wisdom too.
Yeah, very much so. I guess to connect with it in like somewhat humble way, like it's not that we can connect with it because we're so wise and something. It's more like we can channel that wisdom. It's not really something that we have earned, or it's more like it's there for anyone who will use it for the right
Yeah.
aims. Or like I mean, yeah, there's the shadow magicians too, but
Yeah,
they
but
they
yeah.
will they will get there, I guess. At some point, it just doesn't work anymore for them. Their end is usually a bit pretty brutal, right?
Usually yes. It doesn't really end too well for that kind of figure. Haha.
Mm.
Wait, here's another Merlin. Um, yeah, but it's mm, yeah,
That's kind of why I feel like the people who misuse power, they might be like they might have control right now, or like in some sense, but I don't feel like it will last. It's like because things are coming to light, and I don't think they can keep going much longer.
mm, I do think so, but I kind of feel with that also it ties into just kind of like because what I was thinking is just along the lines of like yeah that um, the traits that we have and you know what's inside of us, you know, we can use it either way, but then I do feel like using it in a way that is towards the whole and not towards the I guess the one's own gains, or like, you know, just towards one's own gains in that sense. It's like where where things flip, and I guess like that's what you're talking about, because that then starts to fall away, because it's not like that balance between the self in the sense of like, I guess, ego and sense of I, in balance with the whole.
Mm.
And that's why it ends up falling away, because it it goes against that sense of wholeness. It goes against the whole, so it can't stand for long, even though it might last for a while, but in long term, yes. Yeah, I had another thought earlier, but I forgot. I'll maybe I will remember in a bit. But
I wanted to say something about the self and the broader self in a way, because
yeah,
that kind of made me think about like, yeah, I guess the collective self then. In a way, it's like we have the individual self, like the inner
yeah,
core, but then there's also like this concept of like a collective self where we can see ourselves as part of a bigger whole. Like maybe you can think of it like the ecosystem, or even like the planet and the atmosphere and the biosphere and everything that's here. Like we're part of a bigger whole. It's like if you keep that into your perspective, then you can see like that we can, I feel at least that we can reach much more if we work together, and instead of like being afraid of the others, then we can like learn to at least like live parallel with all the other life that's here. Something like that. Doesn't have to be like such a petition, and like I guess there's like with people who go hoarding for just themselves, maybe it's like a fear that we would run out, but it's like if we work together, we can make sure that we won't run out of things. We will have abundance, man.
Well, I kind of also feel bringing this back to like the Crone and Sage and the wise old man and wise old woman. Kind of feel also it's kind of what they bring to in a way. It's kind of like that inner wisdom and understanding of like, well, there is more than just like, yeah, the individual self in the Jungian sense, and the it also is what connects to the grander, like, the self is what connects to the collective self at the same time. And it's that connection within, once that is established, that leads to that, to that sense of feeling that you're talking about regarding, the being connected to the ecosystem, the biosphere, or like, the everything that's there, in that sense of interconnectedness that comes with the connection with the crone and the sage in that sense as well, and with that the self. I wanna say also hello, Anastasios, for joining.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Today is the Crone and the Sage event.
It is
Yeah.
now. It is live.
the event, or not the event, like Crone and the Sage as archetypes, are variations of some other archetype.
Wise old man, wise old woman.
Yeah.
But they're shadow iteration in a sense.
Not necessarily. We were talking about earlier how Crone has gotten like this, I guess, connotation that's negative, but originally wasn't.
Mm.
Mm.
Yes, actually, I connect Crone a lot with Moire.
Mm-hmm.
What's Moire?
The three fates in different mythologies, like you see the Norns,
Oh,
you see the Morrigan in Celtic mythology, you see mostly old women that say to you your fate, and they're connected with the dead, and sometimes they demand sacrifice.
that's like, I guess, wisdom too, like that sometimes something needs to be let go of. Like even with like the seasons, some things die off for the winter, for there to be able to be a new spring.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And I guess that goes back to like that broader perspective again too, like that sense of larger perspective that comes with it,
Mm.
with
And
connecting.
also, I guess,
Yeah.
wisdom of cycles in nature.
Yeah, especially I guess the wise old woman is very like symbolically connected to that, but I would say the sage as well.
Mm.
I think also Crone gives me a lot of Earth Mother and Death Goddess personas vibe between exchange, like 6 seasons winter, 6 seasons summer, the equinoxes, the solstices, like it is a medium of this type of power, like the rejuvenating feminine. Whereas Sage may take a bit different path towards his sagehood.
Mm.
Mm.
It's, do you mind telling more about your associations with the sage then?
Yeah. What would you say is like the path towards sagehood, according to you, Anastasios?
I think the sage, although I'm not very knowledgeable about it, corresponds to me like a path of the fool in tarot, for example, becoming hermit, hierophant, and such, like going through the phases.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to do more with the path. Sometimes you go through experiences. It is sort of ego death and being taught again by life. There is more the sense of teaching than the sense of living, and both are different kinds of experience. One is from up to down, and one is like a rail of a locomotive changing the scenery of life. The second one is for Crone, and the first one, the tides of fate, the different things that get you in life and sometimes reach you to your limit. This is more the sage path, I think.
Mm.
Hmm. So the sage path would be, you were talking about like that sense of, I guess, ego death, versus more the mother kind of like Earth Mother kind of connection. But in a way, I kind of feel like both have that sense. Maybe even though like maybe they might do it in different ways, it's kind of the same kind of outcome.
Exactly. I have this type of feeling.
Mm.
They are both leading to an ego death.
Yeah. But in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, yeah, they are, as an archetype, they are figures who have individuated. They have gone through cycles of ego death and rebirth.
Yeah.
Until they got to a point where they can channel that wisdom from outside of time.
Yes.
For benefiting the collective.
I have this feeling too.
Mm.
And that the philosophers, in a sense, they try to imitate the sage, and that the oracle many times try to imitate the crone.
Mm-hmm. Very,
Like
very
this.
much so, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Weren't like the oracles often like women too in ancient Greece?
There is very strong oracles in mythology. There is Cassandra, that she got her gift from Apollo, and it was a gift and a curse at the same time. She could see the death of the people and how everything was going to set out. She saw the destruction of Troy, and she was speaking about it, but the gods and the foolishness of people led Troy to its fate. But she could see the future and try to avert it. Also, there is another type of oracle, and many of these oracles also were cross-dressers, like I think Kalhas also, the oracle, and Seli in Epirus, that we are cross-dressers and like dreamer oracles. And again, like the hermaphrodite aspect in many of the men oracle even, it was Tiresias also became woman for a big part of his life and returned back to man, and had very strong foresight. I think they even went to Hades, Odysseus, in order to see how is he going to return to his land, Ithaca. I'm thinking that they tried to pull power from this type of crone aspect. Like to become crone-like and have foresight in a sense, like in Old Norse, the Norns, and also say their magic, that you are able to see the future, and Odin tries to use it also, and the Volva in Voluspa in order to see the future. Sibylla also, very notable oracle, maybe the most notable in ancient Greece.
Yes.
And the oracle of Delphi, Pythia.
Yeah, they're all examples of that. And earlier we were talking about like how both with the Crone and Sage in themselves, they contain all of these different opposites, shadow and shadow and light, and awareness, shadow and awareness. It's a better way of thinking about it, yeah. And then also like the masculine and the feminine too. So it kind of makes sense why they wear like are kind of these figures that are like kind of both at the same time. Makes me think about like the shamans, for instance, too, like who do this, that are kind of like wise old man, wise old woman figure most of the time as well, or like embody that kind of role within the community.
Yes, also they have a dark aspect as well. Like you see a plotter or an evil wizard that becomes somewhat of like an ogre or a different kind of being in stories, like Zahakin Sahname that follows Ahriman and changes a lot. And from being somewhat of a capable king and a sage, he became monstrous. And even in Russian mythology and such, there are examples. And Crone, you see examples like the Sphinx has a bit of air like Crone, that it tests you through riddles. And if you don't answer, she's going to devour you. And you have this even in the Striger and different kinds of vampire woman, old woman that you see like witches and such, that you may encounter like Baba Yaga and so on. Baba Yaga is a very strong example of a Crone, but for me she is destructive, she is chaotic, but she's not 100% evil. Like she's crushing very much those who destroy the forest. She's testing, she doesn't directly devour the victims. You see a kind of ordeal on the people involved. And as the light sides, there are light sides. For example, for me, Hestia in ancient Greece, the goddess, the benevolent crone, and a benevolent sage. And one could say Pythagoras or some Hindu saint, sage, something like this.
Maybe even like Athena too, or
sort of like Athena is not like this completely matured woman. Hestia is the first of the Olympians. She was born first and got out of Kronos last. She is super old.
okay.
Yeah,
Maybe a destructive sage could be Shiva, in a sense, being wise but also destructive.
Sometimes destruction is the only way to create something new.
Yeah, that's kind of like the symbolism of the self too, though. Like it contains both life and death. It contains both creation and destruction.
That's like the reality of things. All of the time something is being destroyed, and all of the time new things are being created simultaneously.
Yeah, and that kind of connects to the Crone and the Sage too, and that's kind of why a lot of that kind of dual symbolism pops up in that. Like you have that too in a figure like, for instance, Merlin as well. At some point, like he was both Christian and demonic at the same time, and that's like he defied this like simple classification of duality. And I see, Anastasios, you posted something in the round table, Keres.
Exactly. And I think Keres, also the name for Demeter in the Roman pantheon, is influenced by it. These are the followers of Persephone when she was dragged down to Hades.
Mm-hmm.
And they are the original form for Siren and for the three sisters of fate and for the Furies. They are the original death goddesses, and also that had some power over the fate of men, in a sense.
Almost like the Valkyries to some degree. Makes me think
Between
of that.
between the Valkyries and the Morrigan, in a sense.
Mm.
And always you see bird characteristics. Also, it may
Yeah.
have the same mentality, the etymology of Keres and Crone, from what I'm seeing now, to decay, to have blemish or defect, in a sense.
Mm. Mm. But then again, symbolically though, the crone as much as like linked to things such as, think of like a connection much like with Demeter or Ceres, with like more like an agricultural nature side that's about like the sprouting of nature at the same time as well.
Exactly, like the crone gives me like the vibe that in a sense he gets a further insight from the mysteries of seeing life and death cycles and how life changes around.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there are benevolent sides as well. There are oracle kind of crones.
Yeah.
In a sense, it could be the maturation of a mother archetype or a priestess archetype. That she's not a priestess anymore. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it could be this evolution. Yes, that the crone went through.
Yeah, like from the mother archetype or the priestess archetype, like you said, to like this wise old woman archetype, like maturing. Makes a lot of sense.
Yes, and it has a lot to do sometimes with situations in life
Mm-hmm.
that I feel like it is the rails that pushes the crone and her knowledge into some path. And it is similar to the sage. I think the sage is mostly pushed by the fortunes of around and the resistance he brings or the yielding he is showing towards them.
Mm-hmm.
It is more of this situation. Also,
Yeah.
purely shamanic, The Crone gives me more shamanic vibe, whereas like old shamanic with nature
Yeah.
and so on, whereas the Sage gives me more of a storyteller or educator or a traveler kind of vibe.
Yeah, go ahead, Lynn.
I think like yeah, that's cool to hear about these associations that they can be different for both of them a bit, but I guess no need to limit them like to be just one or the other. They can probably be like both can be both sides of what was mentioned pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think about the vulva too. Like they were wanderers too. They were going from village to village to earn a living. Similarly, like the sage can do that too. That wandering aspect. So yeah, there's a lot of overlap between them, but then there's also like there can also be differences.
Well, yeah, with specific examples, of course.
Yeah,
They're
with
different.
specific examples.
Mm.
And that's kind of what happens, within different cultures. There can be these like these differences, and also between cultures. Even though like the essence of it is very similar, and there's a lot of overlap as a whole, but then how it expresses itself can be different.
Mm.
Yes, there is the vulva aspect in Norse mythology. The equivalent for Sage is Thulr.
Mm-hmm.
It is like a druid.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Thulr, in a sense, has some type of a power over the kings also.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me a bit of the Brahmins in India.
Mm.
He gives me this sense of the caste of the priests, the holy people, that they have this abode that not even the emperor can enter.
Mm.
Mm.
And they have like a council that you see, like even in Hovamal, there is the sense that Odin is the Fimbulthulr, the terrible or the mighty Thulr, and he initiates, in a sense, the person who listens to Havamal. And Lord Vafnir, in the story of his hospitality
Mm-hmm.
towards Odin, he initiates the listener, in a sense, to a sagehood.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Cain also. Mhm.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to bring up like the council idea also makes me again think of the druids from the Celtic tradition too, like how they would meet up in the ancient groves and hold council there about all kinds of different matters, and no one else could enter either. It was their if they had their meeting there, it was their turf.
Yes, like, and they were very, very important, their councils. No one knew what it was said.
Yeah.
They only gave points of what happened and guided the king.
Yeah.
And it is very funny, in a good sense, that both Thuler
Mm-hmm.
and Druid are connected to the oak tree.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, etymologically.
Yeah, it brings to mind like the Roman Quirinus too. Like he and his priests were also above the emperor too. Was above like the ruler in the original sense, and they were also connected, yeah, to the oak tree. And
Could
mm-hmm.
could be that the retired king, in a sense, or the ruler, beyond a point, decided to assume the role of a sage and guide the kings from the fringes.
Could be, or just like you said, like a priestly kind of cast, or like a different like role that certain individuals play, that connects to, I guess, like the Jungian self, and connects to that inner sense of wisdom. And I feel like it's both the case with like the Crone and the Sage archetype. Because I remember similarly like the I'm remembering with Holda and the Crones, like the Crone archetype also, that there's like similar councils happening as well with them.
Is Vainamoinen a sage in Finnish mythology?
Sorry, what?
Vainamoinen.
Well, he's a wise old man kind of figure, yes. It's like an old knower, tietäjä. That would be like a sage.
Yeah, I would think so.
Mm.
It is very interesting, the traveling aspect, that all of these sages, even in the journey on the west, like you have a traveling person who wanted to reach Buddhahood, and you can say sagehood.
Yeah, for those who do not know, like the journey to the west is like a Buddhist tale that's connected to like Sun Wukong and the Buddhist monk, I think from China. This is.
Exactly, and they want to retrieve some text, if I remember correctly, from India, that are like the pure teachings, because the teachings have been degrading in China and get out of the Buddhist way. So they want to bring back the source values, in a sense. And also, this is very interesting. Like the sage, the people who become the sage in many stories, they search for a well to drink the water to become wise or eternal, in a sense, and they don't become immortal, and they become wise as a reward after a long trip, or they find a tree, or they find actually, many times you have the scenery of a tree in front of a lake, like Buddha and the Bodhi tree. Odin, that hung from the shaking tree, the windy tree, that it says in Havamal, and drank from Mimir's Brunner, that is Mimir's well, to get knowledge. And also the Crones, in Old Norse mythology, the Norns are coming out and they live around their own lake in the roots of Yggdrasil.
Yeah, again, like with both of them, then there's that symbolism of both the lake and the well, and also the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Also symbols of the self.
Yeah, also that's kind of what I was thinking too, because they're both symbols of the self too. It reminds me of Jung, something Jung wrote in the Red Book, I think it was, or maybe it was somewhere else. I don't know. I've read too many things about Jung, but somewhere Jung wrote about some dream or that he had, or a patient of his had, I'm not sure, regarding a tree and 4 lakes around it, and that not being like he called it a primitive mandala of sorts, and a symbol of the self. But it is very interesting. Lakes also reminds me of like the Celts and like stashing their gold in there. Gold being often associated with the self too, because it lasts very long. It doesn't go bad. It doesn't rust.
Also, lake as a reflection.
Yeah.
The power to see something vast, and the calmer it is, and the more you let your perspective on it, you have a great view. Yeah. Looking toward the lake, you can see the world around you and yourself, and reflect on things. Also, like the symbolism, you see it again where Dumbledore stores his memories in Harry Potter, or the Galadriel's mirror.
Yeah.
Or the mirror, where the crown of Durin appears in Tolkien's universe. Like he didn't have a real crown, but he was crowned by the stars from the northern stars as they were above his head. They were looking like a crown.
Cool.
It is interesting. Even in The Lion King, you see the power of the reflection.
Yes.
And now that I think of it, Rafiki paints Simba as he grows to become a big lion in a tree. There is a certain tree where he draws Simba.
Yes.
And his journey.
Yeah, and he represents the wise old man too. Again, the tree, the water, the lake. It's like indeed like a recurring sense of symbolism there that's connected to it. And it made me think about this like one meme you had posted a long time ago, like a very long time ago, I guess, about like Lynn, about this like Zen meme about needing to let the mud settle. And I guess that's kind of part of it too.
Do you have the patience to let the mud settle so that you can see clearly, or something like that? It was.
Yeah. And I guess in some sense, the wise old man, and maybe I think the Celts also have the Rurantia too, that's connected to the oak. It's a crone figure. It's a more like a recent, I think, reconstructed figure. But that aside, with both of them, like the Crone and the Sage connected to the oak and the tree, is also kind of a symbol of endurance, a symbol of like, I guess, patience too. I mean, it takes a long time for a tree to grow. It makes me think about Treebeard now. It takes a long time to say anything in Old Entish. But like, yeah.
And like it takes a long time for a tree to grow old, but yeah, it can see long periods of time in its lifetime. So it's also about that, like,
Yeah.
I guess within time, a broad perspective.
Yeah, and I think like it's kind of like a fitting symbol for like the wise old man and woman too. Then in that sense, like the tree, in the self in that sense.
They seem to be linked because they appear together a lot.
Yeah, they do.
And also there is Lady of the Lake
Yeah.
and three wise men. It is interesting. Like there are connections.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Dana was a water spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna ask about the three
Yeah.
wise men. Like, what's the importance of them being three? Them, or like, is there some symbolic meaning to it? Why is it not 5 or 4 or 2 wise men?
I don't know. I mean, why are there three Norns, or why are there three aspects of Hecate, or why are there three the three fates, or I don't know. There's a lot of threes there in different aspects of like the wise old man or wise old woman kind of symbolism, like the Crone and Sage there. And in that sense, what I could say about that, having looked into like the Mathreya and Mathronea kind of symbolism, too, with that kind of like crone archetype vibe that they have too. They represent, the three aspects kind of it. So it's kind of like the dual aspects, the life bringing, the spring aspect and the winter aspect of the feminine, and I guess with the masculine it could be something similar too. And then also that's what brings it together in the center. That's kind of like both at the same time, or like or represents the peak in some sense. And there being this cycle of like birth and death and rebirth kind of idea.
Yeah, I guess
Also,
it makes me think of like first there was 1, then there was 2, and then there was the third.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 formed the third in a way.
Yes.
as both ways.
He
is not a classic sage, like he just makes values and he goes a path and says, "This is my gospel, take it." He has the sense of Crone that the world works in mysterious ways, or nature takes its way differently, like the sublime, the subtle differences you cannot see, like the rails of the hidden harmony in a sense. And this is more of the benevolent Crone path, that he has an understanding of how decay and change and life goes, but he has also the sense of duty of the sage, like I have to walk the path through, not accepting though the experience as being something that puts him into line. Define the experience and define the complete grounding to the world, he tries to achieve nirvana going forward, having though feeling disconnected, but also being of both aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Gautama in this is very cool. Also, he has again the symbolism with the Bodhi tree and the lake. I don't remember the name of the lake.
But yeah, that's yeah. I don't remember
But he fell
that
into the
either.
water.
Mm-hmm.
I remember he fell into the water, and as he became exhausted, then he almost get drowned and got his enlightenment.
Mm.
Hmm.
I'm going to check it. I am very curious about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess like while we're looking at the East in a way, we could mention Lao Tzu as a wise old man figure as well,
Yeah.
who wrote Tao Te Ching.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
They are both sages for sure.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
Also makes me think of Yoda.
Yoda from Star Wars, yeah. Also, remember he has a house that's almost like a tree, and he meets Luke at like a swamp that's almost like a lake where his ship
A
is.
some planet.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's the same kind of like symbolism of the tree in the lake, or in this case the swamp, there.
Yeah. The tree is also, in a way, connecting like the underground or like below the surface of the ground with the air.
The sky,
So in
yeah.
a way, like why it is a very good symbol for bringing those two together, the earth and the sky.
Yeah.
And then there's like, of course, like the water element there too with the lakes, and
Yeah.
I guess the wisdom and the fire is like the awareness that the sage brings in the lantern.
Yeah, if you would picture the sage holding the lantern, looking into the water, with there below being the earth, with the tree connecting to the earth and to the sky, the air, you have all the elements there.
Mm.
You know, and the spirit
Or
is what
like,
connects it all. Hmm?
yeah, or like you could think of like similarly like in the star card, like
Yeah.
just made me think of it like how he said that the stars became the crown of the
Yeah.
I guess dwarf king.
Yeah. And in this case, of this figure, I think Rain had said one time that in some depictions it's more like androgynous, where in others it's more feminine.
Mm. Mm.
From what I remember. But yeah, it's...
I guess it depicts like the cosmic connection.
Yeah.
And also like the very much like the higher perspective, or like broader perspective. From higher up, you can see more. So
Yeah.
from the star's perspective.
Yeah, and it also makes me think about like the animistic shamanic cultures too, where the tree is also a sacred symbol for them as well, connecting, for them, the realm of the ancestors and the underworld with the realm of the sky and the heavenly deities as
Yeah,
well.
but not just as a symbol, but also like the living trees. I feel like
Yeah.
aren't they like revered as well?
Yeah, the living trees, because it's through the connection to the living trees, and the trees that they then through ritual make sacred, to make them stand out, where they do their rituals. But yeah, like in a way, like all trees are in that sense are sacred and symbolize the same thing, and it's the living tree that is important in that, because it also contains that like vitality aspect too, and at the same time that aspect of endurance, like the self does too.
Mm.
Yeah.
The sage and crone are, I guess, very much connected to that world tree, or that
Mm-hmm.
what could be thought of like the continuation of life too, or like
Yeah.
that stem of vitality that branches out into different life forms.
Very, very much so. And I guess at the same time also with like that idea of the cosmic man, cosmic tree, the, kind of what we talked about, and that other podcast episode way in the beginning of season 2 that we talked about too.
Also, I was thinking
Yeah.
about the tree aspect. In a sense, is what the scholars are studying if they try through scholarship to become sage, although most of the time, I think
Mm-hmm.
the highest percentage will not reach sagehood through reading.
Yeah.
It is just an initial ration, in a sense, you can take for your path.
Yes.
They're trying to become like a tree, like to have very stable core values, to have roots and connections to principles that connect them to the world in a deeper sense, and to drink power from this. Also, the tree is watered by the lake
Yeah.
underground, and their tree becomes stable, strong, and taller and taller and taller, going up, but like with a good basis,
Mm.
and not to compromise in order to move or to make big boasts and so on. Like, in a sense, they try to build, they want the stable knowledge. Even in the Bible, you see it, the tree of knowledge. Uh, it is not that it didn't existed. And I
Mm.
wonder if in the very, very old traditions and forms,
Mm-hmm.
it was a bit of a different story, or like there were more variations about Adam and Eve and the tree. Like there is a tree of life and tree of knowledge. Maybe the tree of life could be the lake and some of the symbolisms.
Hmm.
Everyone is drinking from the lake to survive, like you see in some documentaries. All the animals, regardless if they hunt each other and such, in the end they have to meet up in order to drink from the lake or a water source.
Mm.
Only the water.
Mm.
Yes, and also, in a sense, we understand that sometimes we have to come down in similar situations, and this also brings the sense of necessity of society. Even the society between humans, or even in smaller societies than cities, and sometimes the society between humans and animals, humans and environment, humans and knowledge, humans and the future, our future and the past, like these healthy relationships we can create that stand through time. I'm still trying to find the tree. How was it called? It says it is Bodh Gaya, the place that was found. Yes, and they try, it seems, to recreate it a lot. The Mahabodhi tree. Or it is called also sacred fig tree. The Buddha tree, the tree of awakening.
Sacred fig tree. Yeah, and it's there's different deities that I remember about that also have that as a sacred tree too. The fig tree. Yeah, there's all kinds of different trees that symbolize that same kind of like connection, and their fruit or nuts or like with the oak tree, the acorn symbolizing that sense of both like the fruit of it and the wisdom sprouting from it, but at the same time the seed of a new beginning as well.
And with the pine cone.
Yeah.
Yes, like, and they have different aspects. And also, they are conical. Although the fig tree, I think it is connected with oracle as well in the Roman mythology, ficus, but I'm not sure. The fig tree, by the way, of Buddha, this genus is called Ficus religiosa in Latin. It is interesting name.
It is an interesting name.
Many connections.
Yeah.
Also, the fig tree is a Seiki tree. Odin hung himself on a Seiki tree. I don't know if the world tree would be Seiki. Some say it may be different trees. Two of them.
Yeah, I mean, who knows exactly?
Only Odin knows.
Only Odin knows, yes. Yeah.
I think of it more like it's all the living things together.
Yeah, same, to be honest. Like all the trees kind of symbolize the world tree in their own way. Reminds me of the background image with all those shaky trees behind. But yeah,
Nice and wiggly.
yeah, nice and wiggly. Nice and wiggly. Like nature. But yeah, I don't know if y'all have anything more to say about the crone or the sage or I guess trees. I mean, it's a valid thing to be talking about too.
Very interesting now that I saw it. When Gautama was born, also the Bodhi tree was born. So his tree, when he started his path of life, appeared to him at the same time.
Interesting.
Mm.
And also, another Buddhist tradition claims when the world is destroyed at the end of a kalpa, the Bodhimanda is the last spot to disappear, and will be the first to appear when the world emerges into existence again. Like also the tree in Gondor. And tradition also claims that the lotus will bloom there, and if a Buddha is born during the new kalpa, the lotus flowers blooms in accordance with the number of Buddhas expected to arise. According to the legend, case of Gautama Buddha, a Bodhi tree sprang up on the day he was born.
Interesting. And the lotus also, the lotus flower being connected to water, and with that, a lake. Haha.
And the settling mud.
Yes. Again, the same symbolism. But yeah.
Yes, there is something very strong coming out of this lake and feeding this tree.
Very much so. But yeah, regarding the crone and sage archetype and the self, I don't know if you have more to like add towards this, or you feel like if we feel like wrapping up the episode for now, or
I think it is. I think we covered everything from the basic parts, and also it can connect with future episodes as well, like as a reflection on the parts exposed here.
And also like maybe link it also to some past episodes, like if someone wants to look more at like the feminine archetype, you can look at feminine earth, or we got the shadow magician episode, and we got the cosmic man episode that's more about the self. So there's a lot, and even about Gandalf and the Wind Horse.
Yeah, Gandalf and Wind Horse as well.
One. And in the future, we'll, I guess, talk more about Wind Horse.
That's
like like a separate talk too, and about some different coming of age rituals and
it's very important too, like the wise old man and woman being like the kind of the guide of those kind of rituals too, and and the sacred groves talk that me and you did, Lynn, as well. I feel like that's kind of ties into this too, what we talked about earlier with the druids and the groves,
the trees
and and
the water spirits.
Yes. Very much so. But with that said, I think we very much like you said, Anastasios, talked about a lot of the important basics and different aspects of the wise old man and woman. With that said, Yeah.
A fun fact also, in your countries, I know in the Balkans they do this. Like grandmothers, traditionally they try to dispel the evil eye sometimes from the children. Also, mostly grandmothers, they tell fairy tales and folk tales, and they have like knowledge of traditions a lot.
Yeah.
Whereas grandfathers say events mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have like instances like this? They do traditional stuff to ward off evil or protect and such.
I guess in a more traditional sense, yes, it's like it would be more connected to like storytelling and to like the and it's I guess like a very proto-Indo-European thing or Indo-European thing as well, like that storytelling, that like passing on. But I guess it's a very human thing, to pass on knowledge through stories and myths and fairy tales and like stories like that. And a lot of rituals as well, where they come
And in a
together.
sense, it is like as we close the episodes, the sages and the crones are telling the stories of these collective myths.
Yes. Yeah, very much so.
So the
They,
story lives on.
Yep, so the story lives on, like kind of like the tree.
Yeah.
And with that said, would like to